We try to blame people for everything. This is really rooted in the fundamental attribution error, which is this cognitive bias in which we see ourselves, when we do something wrong, it was all circumstances. Somebody else made me do it. But if someone else did it, well, that's their character. That's who they are. They're a bad person. That's automatic. Everyone has this impulse in them. Not everyone acts on it. Some people can have short-circuited that, learn to compensate for that instinct, but everyone has it initially. And that fundamental attribution error is the reason why we demonize other human beings. It's why we look for scapegoats. It's why we hate, and ultimately, largely why we kill people that we hate. We turn traumatized individuals into bad apples, and we try to destroy them, and through destroying them we think somehow we've solved the problem. But this is a great betrayal of the concepts themselves. We're dealing with problems like racism and sexism, xenophobia, basically systemic problems, as we've called them, systemic problems. You can't scapegoat people for a systemic problem. That doesn't make sense. If it's systemic, then it's not some individuals that are causing the problem. It's the culture. It's the entire culture causing the problem. And therefore, to solve the problem, you must address the entire culture. If you do not address the entire culture, then you're not solving the problem. And when you deal with these people who seemingly are bad guys, you like to label, because they've done something wrong, right? They've hurt somebody. Most of the time, you look at these people closely and you realize they're very traumatized individuals. They didn't do it on purpose because they're malevolent, evil people. They became this way because they were brutalized by society. They were traumatized by somebody else. And it's this chain reaction of increasing trauma in each individual, which causes more and more aberrated, dangerous behavior to occur. So you don't solve it by punishing these traumatized people more. That simply amplifies their trauma. That simply just adds to the layers of trauma they're already acting from. And this is where society's recent reactions with the Me Too movement and whatnot, is sort of this cancel culture thing, is not only not solving the problem, it's quite to the contrary. It's increasing the problem. Because not only is it illogical to punish people, individuals, for a systemic problem, but when you keep adding more trauma to the field, you're going to increase the traumatic behavior. You're going to get more of what you don't want. And this is the madness. This is the madness of it. Our instinctive brains just want to say, get rid of it, make it disappear, punish that person, and then my story in my head can say, problem solved, no more bad guys. But by punishing that person, even if you kill them, just wipe that person out, you've now traumatized a bunch of the people around that person who are now like, oh my God, I was a little bit like that person, now I'm scared. How could I get destroyed like that? And then you've increased the trauma in the collective field. And now all those people are acting more cagey and sociopathic than they were before. If we simply came to the trauma with the desire to heal, then it would be very different. And the desire to heal trauma is largely just a process of softening the hardness of things and meeting subconscious pain with awareness. If you meet the subconscious pain with awareness, you begin to soften and melt that hardened automatic reaction that makes us unconscious and abusive to each other. Now, it's easier said than done. Everyone's very unique, and Their mental, pathways are very complex. So getting into someone's trauma and help, it's really our individual responsibility to fix our own trauma, but we can help people rather than making it harder, rather than scaring them and shaming them and threatening them. We can help people by giving them the space and the time and the love to take down their defense mechanism and be able to soften into it and begin to question, well, is that habit actually for my survival, or is that how I'm hurting myself over and over and over again? If we can capture that moment, that's where the trauma can shift and we can heal something that hasn't been able to heal. The more instinctively vicious and shaming and dismissive we are, the more we get more of the same problem. The more that problem increases in quantity across society. It's a chain reaction. It's a trauma loop. And so if you really want to solve the problem, you're going to bring more sanity to the situation, more calm, more love. And that doesn't mean you forgive people for horrible actions, but it does mean that you try to understand them. And you try to give them moments to wake up. Obviously, you have to cage people who are just dangerous. You have to protect the rest of society that's not dangerous from those who are. But that's just the beginning. That's just the short-term fix. The long-term fix is healing all of that trauma. And that may seem overwhelming and like, oh, these people are ground fixing. Well, that's your attitude. That's your attitude, which I think is the problem. I'm not saying we can cure anyone of any psychosis. There's people it's baked in too long or whatever. They're just beyond help. I've seen it. But you can definitely impact the general society. The general society is not beyond hope. The general society is not lost in excessive trauma. Not yet. We're seeing it increase. We're seeing the madness increase. People are not thinking because their brains can't think. They're too traumatized. They're too afraid. And the more stiff and reactive and angry, shaming and punishing we get, the more afraid people are going to be. And the more we're going to have this problem happening to us over and over and over again. And so we have to learn right now to soften, to ask ourselves, why am I so triggered? Why am I in this automatic reaction loop of trying to punish and shame others? What's going on with me? Because if we can recognize that, then we can begin to resource ourselves enough to treat other people, to treat someone else who's reacting and acting poorly and hurting other people. It's like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? How can I help you find your balance here? Don't, be careful, you're hurting people. Did you see that you hurt that person? I know you can defend yourself brilliantly. That's not a question here. We just want less pain being passed through the system. Can we reduce the pain? And I know that you may have some pain that needs to be addressed. And I want to help you address it. I want to be here, present for you, so that the pain doesn't spread anymore. I have a metaphor for the world. We are in a world of porcupines. If we were in a world of armadillos, we'd be fine. Everyone would be tough and armored, and some armadillo bumps into another armadillo. No harm, no foul. But if we're porcupines, which means our defense isn't a defense, it's an offense, then as soon as we get pricked by a quill, we shoot out our quills all around us, and it hits all these other people around us. And then all those porcupines that got hit by our quills, then boom, they shoot their quills out. It hits every porcupine around them. Eventually, it's that this chain reaction, it's like, it covers the globe. That's what we're dealing with. It's the chain reaction of pain, defensiveness, trauma. And to get over that, we have to really love more. We have to get calm and quiet. We have to turn off some of these devices. Stop watching videos ad nauseum, because that's our coping mechanism. Those are ways we distract ourselves from reality, from our own feelings, from our own inner knowing about things, we get lost in the distractions, and then we can't think at all. We're not used to it. But we have to calm ourselves down in order to heal this collective trauma and begin to stop the chain reaction.